Welcome to Deconstruct the Universe. My name is Patrick, and deconstructing with me today are Justin and Matt. In this episode, we'll be talking about what we believe is the best art in Versus System. We'll start off with Lizard. This is Greg Land art. Now, if you listen to our previous episode, we trashed Greg Land just a little bit, but it looks like we actually have Greg Land for one of the best art. So let's talk about why.
Yeah, so when going through cards and picking out what I believe is really good art, it's art that makes me want to play that card. So all of these the cards that I've chosen, it's just like I saw them, I'm like, man, I want to play that card. Like, and it's typically even before I know about what any of their powers are. And so for the Lizard, it's just a powerful card. Like, he is snarling out at you. Those fangs are exposed. The colors of that green are beautiful, especially matched with like the backdrop of like the reds, and even like there's like a little like reddish purple in his coat. It really pops. Like, his face looks like it is coming out of that card to eat me. So I really, really appreciate this art. And this goes to saying that Greg Land, when he does art that's not like these sexified, smiling women, he can put out some really good art. So he's on the bottom, but also the top for me. I really, really like this art for him.
Yeah, kudos to whoever he traced it from, but it is pretty good. My only complaint is that it's cropped in a way that you have just Spider-Man's knee in his junk, but yeah, it's
well,
good
that's another reason I really liked it.
All right, next up, one that we love that is also a playmat is Power Man. Card number DFX017, Defenders, Power Man, a.k.a. Luke Cage.
Yeah, and before I get into this, I just want to say that finding the best art in the game was actually really hard because there's a lot of good art to choose from, which is nice. It's sort of fun to talk about the bad art, but it is truly good to have so much good artwork and good choices made in this game. So I'm talking about Power Man. This one is a powerful image. It's done by Art Adams, who for me is kind of a classic childhood artist. His style was always really familiar to me, but I didn't know why because I never read his comics. And then finally, because I run the Deconstruct Instagram account, I see other trading card accounts, and someone mentioned how Art Adams did a lot of the card art for the Marvel Universe Series 2 trading cards, and then it just like all came flooding back to me all of a sudden because I had so many of those cards, and I was like, that's where I recognize that style from, is from those old trading cards. Well, now he's back on these new cards that I'm collecting, and Power Man is awesome. He's being shot at, and of course that's really dumb because who shoots at Power Man anymore since he's got bulletproof skin. And he's bursting through a wall, and they've picked some really good artwork because, as you said, they turned it into a playmat. The full cover it's a variant cover for the Cage series, and just even the full cover itself, if you can see it, is really awesome. So, good piece of art here.
Yeah, and even going back to like what I was saying with Lizard is you have this really cool moment of action, and his fist looks like it's coming out of the card. So that in and of itself, I think just makes for really good card art.
Yep. And then you get to say Sweet Christmas.
Yeah.
If you want.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Mantle Lilith.
This is one of my choices. I truly don't know much about Lilith, but the color on this art is so beautiful that, again, when I saw this, I was like, man, that's a card I want to play. And then I read her abilities and like, man, that's a card I'm gonna play. So you have this like blue watery background and like these spirits all around, and then like the purples and her very light skin and those red eyes. She looks strong too, and again, a moment of action. She's casting a spell or something. This is from the Spirits of Ghostwriter Mother of Demons series, and the card art really show like that title and this art go hand in hand. So this is definitely a top tier one for me. I really enjoy the colors that pop, not only for a comic book but also for card art. I just love it when the cards can stand out. this would be a great foil card.
Yeah, that's true. This is a really good example of how far coloring has come, because it's not just like, oh, she's a pale mother of demons or whatever. It's like her skin is reflecting all the light and magic that's around her in a really unique way.
Yeah, and this is a relatively new piece of artwork as well. It's from 2020, and it's a cover by Philip Tan, and the colorist is J. David Ramos, and he did a great job. The coloring is impeccable here.
Yes. We had talked about how having women just be like sexified as a piece of art is not something I enjoy seeing, but I will say they even made her like a little sexified here too. Like there's a piece of cloth on like the bottom right, and it's being pulled up and you get some leg, and that's a way to make a woman be sexy, but she's also being powerful with this stance and the strong hands and the action and the casting of spells. So
she's got some biceps.
She's got some biceps. So if you want to make your women sexy, go for it, but don't just have it in those gray gland sex poses. Like, this is how you can make a woman sexy but also powerful.
I'm not going to kiss Lilith anytime soon, though.
Next up is a card that we have covered before in episode 4. It's Warpath. Warpath is from X-Force, and the artist is Mark Choi.
Yeah, this was a top pick for me. It's been a favorite of mine for a long time. I just think the artwork is really cool. Mark Choi does kind of a manga style. It's not super evident here, but when you see his page layouts and compositions, it definitely evokes that kind of style. And I just think that Warpath looks super tough. Like, his keyword is tough, his keyword power, and he certainly looks tough. And I think it's also bolstered by his other stats. He's got 9 attack and 3 health, and I just think that he's a really good card for the cost that you have him at. The coloring by Sonia Obak is also really cool and adds to it, because it's kind of a darker, has a moody nighttime aesthetic, but then his eyes are glowing red. Like, red and black has always been kind of a tough power combo of colors, and it's out in full force here. It just looks really cool.
Yeah, and you'd think in a series that's all of this gray on black on dark, because this is the X-Force team that does what the X-Men can't do, which is kill people, you'd think it would be flat, but there is so much dimension to this, not only with the red of the eyes, but all the light bouncing off of them really just makes this art so beautiful. Like, in the hair, you can see the reflection on his arm, and a little bit on his chest you see some yellow light reflecting, even on like the shoulders. So it's pretty impressive how you can have this series that's so dark and gray and black, but also has so much dimension to it.
I do have one complaint, and that's that it looks like his veins are popping through his armor, but sure,
well, it's
go
like
with it.
Spandex, so that's just comic book silliness right there. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
I do wish it was zoomed out a little bit more as well. He's in a pretty cool pose, and I would love to see the end of his knife.
Yeah.
Next up is one of my favorite cards. We have Shadow King, card number BOM017. This is from Uncanny X-Force. The artist is Billy Tan, and colorist is Dean White. Shout out to them.
Yeah, again, I mean, X-Force, I love a lot of those series, and there's something so special about this card that, again, I saw this card and I was like, I gotta use it. Maybe it doesn't really invoke like what Shadow King's powers are necessarily, because like if you only knew Shadow King from this, you'd think he's this giant warrior with a flame sword, but really they're in a psychic battle right now, and so you can have this giant powerful entity in the forefront, and then you see Psylocke just with that aura around her, and she's just this like small person in front of this giant being, and that's really what makes the card for me. Like, Shadow King is impressive art in and of itself, the flame on that blade, the light bouncing off of it, but what really makes this card for me is that balance of having this gigantic powerful Shadow King in the as most of the card, and then seeing Psylocke and the beautiful coloring on her in the forefront to really balance out all of these like orange and reds bouncing off of it. Like I just love this art so much.
It's cropped really well too.
It is.
I never noticed Psylocke in this card before.
Oh, really? Yeah,
because he just towers over her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that again, that's what makes it so good for me, is having Psylocke there. I mean, he and that just goes to show how good he is, because you really do focus on him a lot, and he looks so good. But then having that bit of Psylocke just like puts it over the top for me, and it's definitely one of my favorite cards.
All right, moving on, we actually have a location, Training Ground, from the Fantastic Battles set. This is the red location that generates a skill, and it has the Thing on it. Justin, tell us about this card.
I really love this card. I just find it so charming in kind of an old world style. Like, a lot of times with this older art, you get kind of line drawings, and then the coloring is pretty flat. And with this one was done by George Perez, who's just a masterful artist. He kind of uses his inking a little bit more. He uses the blacks a lot more, and so you get these flat colors, but then you also get these like really intense blacks, and it kind of almost reverses out the line work. So instead of drawing each of the things rock like skin rocks, instead he like fills those in, and then around the outside are the orange lines of his skin. And so it's this really cool kind of reverse out effect where you can see the Thing is really struggling against this platform that's lowering down and training him. But it's just kind of this old style but stylized, really interesting location, and I just found it really charming when I opened up my pack the first time and saw it, and I was like, that's really cool that they chose something like that.
All right, the next one we have is Captain Marvel from the Avengers. Card number COS 003 through COS 005.
This one was another one of my choices. It helps that I'm a Captain Marvel fan for sure, but I just think that this card art really captures the strength of this character. There's kind of a storm brewing behind her, and you sort of get the impression that she's the one that's like, she's like the full force of the storm, and she's coming after you. She's like coming straight toward the camera, so to speak, and her fists are glowing, and her hair is whipping around, and her sash is also like whipping in the wind, and there's machinery flying behind her, and you're just like, you look at it and you're like, I am so screwed right now because Captain Marvel is coming for me. And it's kind of beautifully painted by Julian Tedesco. It has sort of a Norman Rockwell quality to it, mm-hmm. and so it kind of gives Carol that extra bit of, I don't know, Americana, like groundedness to her, but definitely has a lot of that superhero strength showing through. It's really cool.
Well, and looking at the clouds and how they are colored, it's like that cone effect where it's like zooming in on Carol, because like those brush strokes are going towards her, like towards the center. So if you look at the clouds, everything is like pushing towards her. So like you're saying, like she's going forward, she's the center of this storm, and all of these lines are drawing your eye towards her. And I think that's something that's really powerful with this card. And then talking about the storm and the clouds, I mean, it's amazing. The background art in this, she's beautiful. She looks great in and of itself, but I think the background art really does set this card apart from a lot of the rest because of the storm, but also the level 3 looks the best out of all of them. You have the purple outlines for a level 3 card, and that just really matches well with the background and the blue in her suit. So like getting her to level 3 is worth it, of course, because you want to level up, but also just because it's the most beautiful version of this card.
The only thing that I wish they did differently with these cards is that this artwork is from the Life of Captain Marvel series, and each of the covers in that series was pretty good, and so I would have loved if level 1, 2, and 3 were each a different cover from that series. I think it would have been cool. I feel like they need to do that more. I feel like they need to stop doing the same artwork every level, and they just need to pick different artwork for each card. It's just better.
Variant art booster packs. Variant art booster packs.
My only complaint about the card is that it looks like there's some sort of trademark or logo in the lower right-hand corner.
I think that's the artist signature.
Oh, okay. We'll go with it then. All right, the last one before we get into our top 3 is a newer card. Card number SEC009. It's Kingpin, anti-registration Kingpin. The artist here is Ron Garney.
I feel like I may be pulling this one a little bit out of left field. I don't know. I'd love to hear if people really love this art as well. But, Kingpin doesn't really have any superpowers. So, other than like having him punch something, I guess, you can't really do too much in the form of action. But he's like a final boss. Like, a lot of his action comes from telling people what to do and being an intimidating, imposing figure. And that was what I got from seeing this card for the first time. Again, this was a card I saw it, didn't read anything about it, and I'm like, dang, I want to play this card because he's just this gigantic, menacing, intimidating guy. Like the top of his head is outside of the cropping of the card, and that's a crop I like because it just goes to show he's so big he can't even be contained in this card art right here. And then you look at the size of his fingers; those are gigantic. So the intimidating aspect of him, I really appreciate. You have this complete blackness behind him except for that little light from like a cell, the shading under his chin and his eyes. This is like epitome of Kingpin for me, and I just really, really enjoy this art.
Yeah, his fingers are like as big as the guy's neck that's sitting in front of him.
Yeah.
And to expand on what you said, he is incredibly powerful. He's a strategist, but this shows that he can even do that from prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I love it. Great art selection here. And a good card. All right, well, the moment has come. We're going to go over our top 3 cards in the game. Matt, yours is Jean Grey from X-Men Red in 2018. It's the cover by artist Travis Charest.
So Jean Grey is my number 1 all-time favorite character, Phoenix Force or not. And when X-Men Red came out, this was after she had been brought back to life. So to see that she was getting a solo series was amazing. Not a solo series, but to see that she was leading a team after just being brought back was really cool for me. I was so excited. And then seeing this awesome armor that she wears with this blue on top of this red. Some people didn't like it. Anything is better than her Marvel Girl green dress. And just this like power that she has in that orange around her, and then the white backdrop that is there with like her white eyes. I mean, this art is beautiful. And then, something about having it as full art as well, I think also draws me to it even more.
It's an Omega card. It's perfect art for the full art Omega. I'm glad that they chose this to put into the Omega set.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so good. The coloring on it is beautiful. Like the way her hair is moving is great. All of that energy crackling around her. I don't think, for me, nothing tops this card. There are some that get close, but nothing tops this card for me.
This costume is like if her 90s costume had actual style to it.
Yeah. And they've in some recent comics, they've done a pretty cool iteration of this as well, where I think it's like the blues are instead like a greenish color, like a teal, and I think the red is more orange. I'm trying to go by memory. And that looks really good too. I just really appreciate when Jean is in some armored looks. I just think anything looks so much better than Marvel Girl. I don't mind. Anyway, I could go on about that. I'll stop. But I really like this card.
All right, and Justin, you have chosen Star-Lord all the way back from the Marvel Battles set.
Yeah, this one is done by Clint Langley. He was doing a run of covers for the Guardians of the Galaxy series at the time. This was like the 2008 reboot where they got all the now familiar Guardians of the Galaxy together. And I just think that it's a really cool shot of Star-Lord. He's post-Annihilation, and so he's kind of got this military outfit, and it's pre pre the movies where he's just kind of like a lovable goofball with the red leather jacket, and I like that look too. Like I think that's really good, but I just really think that this works really well with his mask and his helmet, and he's all kitted up and he's being shot at, and his pose is really dynamic, and I just think that this one really knocks it out of the park for old Peter Quill.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. I love that it's an action shot, and it kind of shows what he's good at. It really is good selection, and it's cropped very well, too.
Yeah.
I like that the tip of the gun is right in the corner there. It's just great use of space.
Yeah, and I like that it's showing Star-Lord as someone who is competent, whereas nowadays most people sort of think he's incompetent, and I think he's always had issues by jumping in without a plan and flying by the seat of his pants and all of that. But it's cool to see him in his comics form, where he's a little bit smarter than maybe his movie form makes him.
All right, and the last one we have is Magic, again, from the Marvel Battles set. I know we have 3 Magic cards, but this is the one that is the 1 cost. We also covered this in episode 4 of our podcast. The artist is Adam Kubert, and I think this art is just fantastic. It's a full wraparound cover. She's actually divided right down the middle, so you have to open up the full issue in order to see the full glory of this card. And I didn't even notice this until we talked about it on our podcast, that she has opened up a portal on the bottom. That is her ability, is teleportation. And that sword in the middle, the soul sword, is the coloring on that is fantastic. I think that overall this is an amazing card for all of the New Mutants, but of course specifically for Magic. It's colored well, it's drawn well. I love this card.
Yeah, you have like 3 different layers of colors. You have like the blue from her sword, you have like the orange and yellows from their costumes, and then that portal, and then you have that like pinkish purple red background. I mean, a colorist can really make or break a card and how well it works, and this colorist did a phenomenal job.
It's a well-balanced card.
Yeah, it is.
And before we get into our final segment here, I have a couple of honorable mentions. One is the OP kit version of Jessica Jones, where she is holographic and bursting through the card. I think that's fantastic.
Amen.
And then the entire Omega set. I love that the whole set is full art, and most of them are taken from covers. They're really well drawn, so shout out to Upper Deck for picking full art for that entire set. Love it. And that's all we have for today. I'd like to give a shout out to our patrons, Mr. Ben, Joe, Jason, Ty, and Katie. If you like what you heard today and want more, head on over to patreon.com and sign up to show us some love. Thanks for joining. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and go ahead and give us a comment if you agree or disagree, or just want to let us know what your favorite cards are. Until next time, go read some comics.